Well, the Group 1 racing continues this week at Morphettville. I'm Tom Haylock. This is Laid Back with Betfair, joined by Trent Crebbin from Racing and Sports and Mitch Lewis. Start with you, Mitchy. How are you, mate?
G'day, Tommy. G'day, Trent. I'm well, thanks. Hope you guys are going well. Week 2 of the Group 1 Carnival here in SA, so absolutely love that. Keen to get stuck right into it.
Yes, well, Warrnambool continues. We film this Thursday. The grand final day at Warrnambool is continuing as we speak, but we shift our focus again to Morphettville, 4 races there. Trent, you excited by the program, the Derby this week?
Yeah, I'm coming to you from Adelaide as well. So I was there for Sanctuary Day on Saturday. I'll be there again on Saturday for the Derby. Probably of the 3 days, it's probably the one that's a little bit lacking some of the support races, but the Derby's an interesting race. It's a few angles there, and a couple of other races that will cover a good races as well.
Yeah, I spent about 4 hours doing the Derby last night, so I haven't done any form. We'll touch on a couple of races at Eagle Farm, which I need to look at, and hopefully you guys have done the form and found a few winners and a couple of tough races there. As usual, we'll jump into the lay-bin, and we'll start with you, Mitch. Have you got anything for us this week?
Yeah, look, I've got a couple of little ones. And one, I suppose, a little bit seriously. I might just quickly, I had a phone conversation earlier with you in the week, Tom. I put myself in the lay bin here. Just in hindsight, I thought I had a busy week. It didn't turn out to be as busy as I thought, so I've skipped the Betfair party at the Bull. Regret hit me.
You missed a great party, too. I tell you what.
Like I said, the best plans I'd sort of thought out. I thought, right, something's going to have to give. And in the end, it was my own sort of joy. So that's unfortunate. So next year will be a hard yes. And then I suppose from a little bit more of a serious point of view, racing Twitter is also, it's one thing. But just in revolving around with the Bull, I've just sort of noticed a little bit of a fashion, and this is people in the media this week. Quite quick to fire out tweets when they talk about horses foaling. And that's without quite knowing, I don't think, the timeline of if the horse is okay. And we know that jumps racing treads a fine line on that sort of thing. And I'm not sure if that's clickbaity, if you know what I mean, just to throw it out there quickly to suggest that a horse has fallen when in the 2 biggest instances I've seen, both horses have been okay. Or there's been more than just the 2, but it's quite a quick tweet to just get it out there quickly that a horse has fallen. And then maybe, 5 or 10 minutes later when the news comes through that it's all okay, that's very good. But these are people, and I think you might go find them now if you go and have a look. I won't name names, but these are proper journalists too, just throwing it out there saying a horse has gone down. And I don't know if that's just asking for a bit of trouble, if you know what I mean.
It's a great point, and I think it's in all media. And we see it often in sport. It's speed over actual accuracy of information, and whoever's first tries and gets the most clicks. And I think it's to the detriment, and it's a very much a social media thing, Mitch. But you see a lot of AFL journalists, especially, tweet out some information, and it might not be fully accurate, but they try and jump in first and jump the gun, and it's not ideal. Trent, what have you got for us this week, mate?
Yeah, well, I thought you'd taken this, but I think you've got something maybe a little bit better. But just the AFL Tribunal, how they've upheld Arcoro's boy Mitch Hinge's ban and not Carlton's Adam Cerra. There's just nothing in that. Surely there's nothing in that. It's just a fend off, and it's just barely even tickled him, and they've upheld that. And then the same incident for a Carlton player hasn't been upheld. So just inconsistency, and maybe when Crows need a better lawyer or something. But yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
Absolute garbage, mate. The tribunal itself, how Curtis got 3 weeks for that as well. There's been a lot of scrutiny on that. So that's fair shout. We could put that in the AFL and the tribunal in the lay-bin every week, I reckon. It's just so many inconsistencies and ruining the fabric of the game at times. And Ross Lyon didn't hold back as well. Now, mine, a bit more light-hearted, I guess, Trent. And this is directly, I'm going to stare down the camera. This is solely at you here. Now, last week, Mitch, you weren't here, but last week, Trent rolled in. He went for dinner the night before. He was, let's just say, tired. Some would say hungover. But I've never seen a guy order McDonald's quicker than him as soon as the show wrapped up. And he sent his screenshot of his order. Now, he's a sicko. Bottom line, he ordered a cheeseburger on, was it Uber Eats, Trent? Is that what it was?
No, I picked it up on the way home.
You picked it up? Well, you ordered it on the McDonald's app, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. He's done that before. He's got the McDonald's app. ordered a cheeseburger, 5 pickles. Not
Nice.
6, not 4, 5 pickles in it. What kind of sick behaviour is that?
Well, 5's
Trent-
the maximum you could do. If you could do 6, I probably would have done 6. No, don't sleep on the pickles. They're so good.
Were you cramping or something, mate? Need the pickle juice.
Yeah. Performance athlete, mate. I'm recovering.
I've never seen anyone order 5 pickles before. We got the screenshot of the order. It's absolute bizarre behaviour. But anyway, there you go. Let's move on to some races.
Instead of 5, so let's be fair, it was max pickles, not just 5 pickles.
Yeah, max pickles. Yeah.
He probably got there and asked for him to put a couple more on. All right, let's get into
off the windows that people flick up against there.
Let's get the ones at Eagle. Let's get to Eagle Farm now. Soft 5 at the moment. Rail out 7 metres. I need your support here, guys, because I haven't had a close enough look. We've got the Group 2 Queensland Guineas, the Group 2 VIictory Stakes, 1,600 metre race to kick things off. Race 7 on the program. Trent, we'll throw to you. Speed, map, tempo, and who you like.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. It's an open race. Shangri-La Spring at the top of the field there. Led throughout in that, I think it's the Frank Packer Plate in Sydney last time. Back to a mile here, but he's still pretty speedy, drawn wide. I think he probably ends up finding the front here fairly comfortably. Another visitor, Wonder Boy, sat forward at Bendigo last time. He can probably roll forward as well. I didn't think there was a whole lot of speed despite the big field, and that's what's got me leaning the way of Shangri-La Spring for Waterhouse and Bott. I thought it was a good win last time. The start before over a mile when that race won by, I think it was the Carbine Club won by Evaporate, was solid there. But back in trip here, I think they really need to roll him along and make the most of his stamina. If they do that, I think he's got the last couple of ratings to win this. Comes up again against the likes of Depth of Character, who did beat him home in that Carbine Club and then won a race up in Queensland last start. But I just don't really think he's that good. I think he kind of won a weaker race last time. And the one that I'd also have something on is maybe a bit of a saver, number 16, Churchill's Choice. Handy filly, won her first 3, then resumed at Randwick behind Lilac, More Territories in a fillies race down in Sydney. And I thought she ran well for 4th there, only beaten a length. So she'd be fitter for that. 1,600 metres really going to suit her, and she's got a bit of upside. But Shangri-La Spring, they just need to roll in front and really turn this into a test. And with Tim Clark, Gay Waterhouse, Adrian Bott, more often than not, they are going to do that. So he's the one that goes on top for me.
Yeah, I don't love the stable back in distance. I prefer backing Waterhouse Bott up in trip, but you make some really good points. Good win last start, 2,000 back to a mile. I like the wide barrier because if he's not that quick, he can just work across. And I liked him last start at that value, and I was shocked to see what he paid there. And I think he go on with it. Mitch, how have you seen the race, mate?
Yeah, I like Trent's race map. The only one I might throw in there that I wondered who could annoy Shangri-La is Oriente from Barrier 2. He's shown some speed sometimes, and I was just a little bit worried that if he kicked up and held Shangri-La out wide, that could be the issue. So it's probably a no real bet race for me. The only thing that I thought of note as well, Depth of Character. We know Eagle Farm sometimes can be a little bit horses for courses. He's got a good record up there. I just wondered if that might be his advantage, particularly if somebody goes out and annoys Shangri-La Spring. But if Shangri-La Spring gets its own way out in front, I think it'd be too hard to beat. So it's probably a no-bet race for me.
Can be horses for courses. It is a ridiculous track in that regard. You get horses that get beaten 30 lengths at times. It's amazing the margins at Eagle Farm. But there you go. Thanks for that, Mitchie. Let's get to the VIictory Stakes, 1,200 metres, race 8 on the program at Eagle Farm. We'll start with you, Mitch, this time.
Yeah, look, race map-wise, this is probably the trickier of the race. Who's going to go forwards? Cold Crusher drawn to the inside, maybe. King Kappa as well. And I suppose Hidden Wealth's got no choice. Tim Clark on, you would suggest, from the wide barrier, has to go forwards. In this race, look, I'm not going to have a huge bet, but I'm fascinated in how Coleman turns up here for the new stable for Chris Waller. I went and had a look at his 2 trials. I mean, they were okay. Waller horses aren't known to trial the house down. I thought he was ticking along all right, and he goes well fresh. So he's just a big watch for me. It's an extremely hard betting race, I thought. He's your favourite, 550 the field with Far Too Easy. But I think if Chris Waller, who you'd suggest, can get him close to his best, he might be just worth a little look at for mine. So I'm going that way. I think he's drawn well enough to get a soft run. So just a tiny little spec, Coleman.
Good advertisement here for Betfair, Coleman. The market in the last 5 minutes, Mitch, will be really interesting in the parade and whatnot and the Waller. Yep.
Yeah, I reckon that's going to be the way you would play that race. Leave it late, especially being with Coleman. We know he's had his issues previously.
Yes. Trent, how have you seen the race, mate?
Yeah, looking at the ratings, I think Hidden Wealth has a couple of peaks that probably win this. Inconsistency's probably been his thing, but he can put in a shocker. Like, he did a couple of starts at Eagle Farm. He put in a bad one when he was favourite. It was a strange race won by Cannonball. But you spoke about the Eagle Farm record before. That's not an issue for him. He's 2 from 3 at the track and trip. So first up last campaign at Doom, but in a Group 3. It was a heavy track, but he bolted in. He posted a really strong rating that only last 10 years, only really Rothfire and Antino have posted a VIictory Stakes rating better than what he did there. So, I don't think there's anything of potentially that quality. Well, Rothfire's here again, but, he's probably well past his best. And then even at the start of the Gold Coast before a spell was really solid as well. I think he's got 3 or 4 ratings that put him right on top of this. Fresh for him, obviously no issue. Drawn wide, but I don't really care about wide barriers, especially if you know that they're going to go forward. So you've got Tim Clark on. I think if he runs to those sort of ratings, I think he's probably the horse to beat. Coleman obviously is the big X factor. He's obviously good enough, but like you said, I think the late market's going to be the key there. If he's very firm, you can always have a saver. The market's going to allow you to do that. So Hidden Wealth on top for me.
Bit of a Tim Clark double there. Trent should be open his riding well. There you go. Interesting race that. Stay ahead of the game with the most up-to-date betting insights, track conditions and bias, scratchings, late market moves, and more. When it comes to betting, having the most up-to-date information can make all the difference. That's why we've introduced Betfair's Late Mail, the most informed tipping service on the market. Delivered by pros like John Walter, Glenn Ingram, Sean Byrne, and Bella Anderson, Late Mail provides expert insights closer to the jump, helping you adjust your strategy with the latest information and data at your fingertips. Late Mail is exclusive in the Betfair app, so simply open the app, follow Late Mail tipsters, and enable notifications to be ready when our pros send in their late bets. Stay informed, stay ahead, bet smarter with Late Mail. All right, Mitch, it's time for you, but I just thought of another lay-bin. Now, our producer, Harry, would like this. Now, I went to Warrnambool day 1, Mitch, and started drizzling as it does every half an hour. It goes from 28 degrees to 12 degrees and starts raining in about 30 seconds. And then we sat under the cover and waited for this band to play a song. And the band, literally stood up there 15 minutes waiting to play and start. They played one song, cracking song, and then they walked off stage. Didn't come back. They played one song. I don't know what happened, but it was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Sounds appearance fee to me. Did our job. See you later. Look at this drizzle. It's too heavy. We better go. I think some people might suggest jockeys do some similar things sometimes. Not myself, but yeah.
Very true. Well, speaking of jockeys, let's get to your layback list. The hardest races to bet on, and you've said you've got some data to back up this list. I'm excited. Where do we start? Let's start with number 5, mate.
Yeah, look, I'll put a little bit of a caveat on this. I was having a look at lists I could do for today, and yesterday I watched the Warrnambool and thought, geez, it's always tricky with the conditions there. It's a hard race to bet in, and then I thought I could make something of this. I think so. Couldn't you just put like all Warrnambool races in this top 5? So that's what I was going to say. What I'll do is, the deeper I dove into it, I could easily go your furthest country cups. I could throw you out a Roma Cup. I could throw you out Oakbank 64s, or what's the one they do at Swan Hill, the Drought Breaker, all that sort of stuff. So, but what I tried to do was I tried to think of some in sort of a general sense as well. I know some punters from a professional sense might find it differently, and you might bet 5 or 6 horses in a race. What I've done here is I've tried to find my top 5 hardest races to bet on in a sort of general sense. So right. I'll kick you off the first one, the Warrnambool Cup. Now, the difference between the Warrnambool Cup and other country cups is the Warrnambool Cup happens at the back end of a 3-day carnival, generally on a wet track through the week. So what you've got to deal with is generally a very full field. Then you've also got whatever lane is good that day. We've had previous years, have they rolled certain lanes? It might be rated a heavy 10, but it's been a heavy 10 for 3 days with more rain, so that's closer to a heavy 20. So I certainly know it's maybe not the worst to find the winner, but it's very hard in that sort of sense that I can imagine not many do. Yeah, so that was one that I just wanted to easily pick off. Yep. Number 4.
Next one's interesting. Actually, they're all interesting.
Yes. Okay. So the Magic Millions 2-year-old for me, like I said, we're going general sense again. I know yourself, Tom, you're a trial watcher and you could pick out things like that, no doubt. But given how early it is in the 2-year-old season, I think it throws up a few doozies every now and then. So what you can find is you might have someone, and particularly when they all travel up from Victoria or New South Wales, there's a lot of travel involved, a lot of young horses, a full field. So personally, I find that one quite tricky. But then we'll get into the guts here. So here's where I'll throw out some stats. At number 3, I've got the Oakley Plate. So in the last 4 years, 25 favourites have won the race. Generally, given it's a handicap race, very close blankets across the finish there. But 1,100 metres Caulfield set up, and where it's placed in the calendar, it does throw up a couple of doozies as well there. So like I said, 4 favourites in the last 25 years. The next one, so next week, and I think we'll be back on the show, so this will test us, I reckon.
Hang on a second. Jimmy Starr, God bless him. That was easy. Shelling Peace, probably my favourite race.
Did he start the favourite?
No, but I can't remember.
No, but what I was going to say,
if you listen to this show,
there's 3 and 24. So
if you listen to this
Tom,
show,
you're a pro though. This is what we talked about. I tried to go general senses, so you probably picked the winner in all of these races. But we're trying to pick off in a general sense.
Yep.
The next one I found fascinating, and I've probably copped out with the number 1, but number 2 is the Goodwood. So we'll go through the Goodwood next week. 5 favourites in the last 35 years have won the race. One of those, $1.04 Black Caviar. So whether or not you want to include that or not. No. And then one thing, in the last 35 years, 21 of the winners have been at double-figure odds. So generally it's a race that you have to be looking outside of the favourites, right in the middle of the field there. Mixing form lines. So, for example, next week you're going to have Giga Kick coming in fresh. Of recent times, the Sangster's been the key form line. So we had Benedetta win that last year. Was it Royal Merchant the year before as well? So 2 fillies, and I think off the top of my head, there's only been 5 fillies in the last 35 years that have won the race as well. 2 of them in the last 2 years. So it's a tricky race there. And then I've probably copped out here, the Melbourne Cup number 1. So I just found it pretty easy, built my base from there. 4 favourites in the last 28 years have placed. So we're not talking wins here, we're talking placings. Wow. We know that, and this is what I talked about, you can make results betting 4 or 5 different horses in the race, but if you had to look down the camera and say, give me one, it can be quite tricky. So mixing form lines, international form lines, best of the best. The Melbourne Cup, in a sense, if you're a favourite, you've only finished in the top 4 times in the last 28 years. So let alone win the race.
Good list, mate. I can't argue with many of those. The Melbourne Cup, I've never spoken to anyone that has actually, like pro punters, data teams, professionals, whoever it might be, that have said they're confident in the Melbourne Cup. Not one. Have you ever spoken to anyone saying, "Yeah, I'm really confident"?
No, and particularly not the 2024 edition. So I had a result 2 years ago without a fight winning the race. But that, like I said, I'd backed 4 or 5 on Betfair and made a sort of book in the lead up. So like I said, from a general sense, I wouldn't put that in the general category. And outside of that, I think my last win was very elegant. So, it's a tricky one, but I'm with you.
Yep. All right. How do you go, Trent? Any to add?
Yeah, I was just looking. I was just wondering. I know that we've got a few stats and people have done articles at Racing and Sports. Apparently, 163 Melbourne Cups, 33 favourites have won. So going back in time, I think the record of favourites might be a little bit better. But
there was a period in the 90s that obviously the internationals that have come over have probably ruined that stat a little bit. There's a lot of favourites. Obviously, we've seen Bullman who start well in the market a couple of times. But
he's just fluffing up my numbers with 2 from 2 in the last couple of years.
Correct. No, but that's fair. Like the 90s, I think of Might and Power and Saintly and all those that were really well fancied in the market and starting $3 or $4. So very interesting. Good work. Let's get to Morphettville. And a good raceman in Group 1 meeting there. Good 4 rail out, 2 metres, Mitch. What do you think the track will play like here at Morphettville? They seem to be getting off fence, and they do that at times at Morphettville, but then you can often see horses duck back to the inside and pick up. So how do you reckon the track will play?
I would think very similar to how it did last week. Conditions on track again, sort of that mid-20s, a little bit of sun out. They came very wide. I think off the top of my head, it was all lane 6+. No one won from the inside there. But generally, in a regular meeting when it's not the Group 1s, the rail can be hot when the sun's out on a good 4. So don't be surprised if somebody thinks that they might cut to the inside and have a run in it. I don't think it'll be inferior ground. They just seem to want to really pull away into that middle part of the track. So I think it'll be very similar this week.
Yep, can't argue with that. All right, let's get to the Port Adelaide Cup, 2,500 metres. Hopefully this isn't sixth on your hardest to bet into races, Mitch. Sir Kingford looks the leader here, Mitch.
Yeah, you would imagine he's going to be the leader. Last start winner of the Onkaparinga Cup there at Oakbank. It was ran at a savage tempo. They went really quick out in front. He was a little bit vulnerable late, but he's really tough. Held on there late. Off that quick tempo. I'm against him in the race. If he's going to do that again, I'm not sure he's a 2,500 metre horse. I think, I'm not going to say lucky, but it was a huge effort, I thought, to win over the 2,100 there at Oakbank. I know he's going up and down hills as well, which you could probably add a couple of 100 metres to the distance. But I just think he's going to be vulnerable because he knows no other way but to go forwards and put a quick tempo into the race. And he's had one start, 2,500 metres unplaced. I just think it's going to leave him vulnerable. And I think a horse like Silent Sorrente, probably almost career best form. She was the winner of the Adelaide Cup. Went across the Flemington there, 8 lengths off Deacon, but him and Berkshire Breeze put a gap on the rest of the field. So that run's probably not too bad. I think this is much easier. And the form reference last year, this race was won by the Map, who was second in the Adelaide Cup. Silent Sorrente, a similar sort of age profile and setup. I've got her there beating Sir Kingsford in this race.
A little Hamburger for you. You're laying Sir Kingsford?
Yeah, he's my lay. Like I said, I just think he knows no other way but to go quick, and he would need a really soft lead, I think, in my opinion, to get it. And I think, who did I have with him? I think I'm a Dexter could be one, or even Dixie Whistler sometimes can go forward. So I'm not sure he's going to get it all his own way, which I think leaves him vulnerable at 2,500 metres.
I thought his win, it's not the right up at the right form, but I thought his win was sensational last start.
Yep.
He was so tough. He looked gone at various times down that straight, and it's a bit of a long straight there at Oakbank. He looked gone and he fought on really well. What I found interesting, Mitch, is he drops 3 kilos from that Onkaparinga Cup, meets the 3 that he beat there much better at the weights. Then you've got Silent Sorrente at the weights, who rises 4.5 kilos off that Adelaide Cup, meets Sentimental Flame, Hustle Award, much worse at the weights there. He same 2 horses in the Lord Reims, rises 4 kilos from that, meets him worse at the weights, and then Sentimental Flame again in a Premier's Plate in Feb, rises 4 kilos and meets Sentimental Flame 4 kilos worse. So the weights is a really fascinating area of this race. Obviously a clear top weight there in Silent Sorrente, conceding 4 kilos. Trent, how have you seen the race, mate?
Yeah, I've gone the other way and just ignored all of the Adelaide form. I thought Vaselina for Emily and David Brown should be favourite, and it's come into equal favourite now as we've kind of started recording. She was a bit of a shock winner first up at the Valley, had excuses second up at Caulfield, and then I thought last start at Echuca, Echuca's probably not the form, but it was that Country Oaks race, won by Alma Rise. The time figure's really good there, and Alma Rise is a pretty good stayer as well. She had a big win during Cup Week. I think she's quite handy. Getting to 2,500 metres, 4th up looks perfect for her. She's run 3rd in a VIC Oaks and wasn't far off them in an ATC Oaks as well as a 3-year-old now. So I think 4th up, getting 2,500 metres is going to be a peak performance for her for the preparation. And like I said, 54 kilos, getting 4 kilos of Silent Sorrente, I think at those weights, she's got the ratings to contest. And yeah, if Sir Kingsford is a bit of a risk at the 2,500, Vaseline is going to be really strong late. And with that weight pool, I think she's the one to beat.
Love that. Let's move on to race 7, the Adelaide Guineas, 1,600 metre race, listed race here. And it's a race I'm pretty bullish to play in, but we'll start with you, Trent. How have you found the race?
Yeah, interesting little race. There's a few little angles. The one that I've taken is with the Archie Alexander trained Somewhere. Ran first up in the Bendigo Guineas. It was a kind of just on paper, didn't really do a whole lot, kind of just ground away to the line there, beaten 4 by Wonder Boy. But I think he's a horse with a bit of ability. He went back, his first start at Ballarat was a really strong winner, ran big overall time figure, backed up by big late splits. It was just a really strong win. And then went to Caulfield, that Group 2, I think it was the Sandown Guineas or something at Caulfield, Group 2, heavy track, and ran well again there. He was only beaten 1.5 lengths, but put away, I think first up, did enough over 1,400 metres on a strange Bendigo track where he got back and it wasn't really the spot to be on the day. 1,600 metres, I think he'll get 2,000 if not further in time. So 1,600 metres for him. You get Mark Zara on board, who was riding the lights out last week and a cut above some of these jockeys in Adelaide. So any issues from barrier 1, I think he can overcome. And I think on ability, I think he might just be the best horse in the race. Whether he's got the kind of grounding or the experience to really go on and win this is maybe the query. But I think ability-wise, I reckon he'll end up the best horse in the race.
Lovely, mate. That's number 1 somewhere. Mitch, have you found the race, mate?
Yeah, I found this one quite tricky. Sort of all the sort of mixing form lines. I sort of jumped between a few for an opinion. I don't mind Trent's push on somewhere. Certainly had him right up in my numbers. I thought On Display was probably short enough, but based off the quick backup, what it did last week was really impressive last week. But it's probably got to almost find a repeat peak performance to be able to do that again. I didn't hate Sneaky Sunrise if they do come across here. I thought form lines through moving out last start at Mornington, caught out wide. And then if you go back through, earlier in the prep, 4 lengths off Treasure of the Moment, we know for these fillies is a pretty key form line. So I'm sort of between Sneaky Sunrise and Somewhere. So it's probably no bet race for me. And I see with your pick, Tom, as well, I just would have loved that horse drawn inside a little bit more, but can see the play with that for you.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty bullish on this race, and it's a Hamburger race, and hopefully we go one better than last week. My Hamburger was so close. I had Amina there and laid Asfura, Win and Place, and Climbing Star, and Amina is one of the horses in the Hamburger, and that was a bit sick, but similar kind of setup here. I'm keen to lay, and Trent and Mitch, you've added confidence to my thoughts on the race because I don't like the favourites. Harumph, I think leads, crosses, but not the fastest away. You go and watch that replay last start. It wasn't the fastest through and just had to work through between the field. Also had the track pattern with and that bias and leader bias at Lakeside last start probably helped the winner. Harumph, I'm a little bit scared. Probably got it marked favourite, but I think it's unders. On Display, Mitch, you mentioned this horse. Brings Group 2 Queen of the South rating into this and a good run there. Probably the highest rating performance. Unlucky, probably should have won that, but did go around $41 there, and now you're expected to take $340. It seems really bizarre and harsh on that for a race that it didn't win. So I'm against On Display at the price as well. I think that's too short, and I absolutely loved the win of Estene down the bottom here. She's a filly with huge upside, blistering turn of foot. She ran the fastest splits of the race last start, over 1,400 metres, 6th fastest final 600 metres of the day. Impressive 200 metres I think it was of the day, which is impressive over 1,400 metres. No issue with a mile off that. We'll be charging late. I don't mind the barrier here, Mitch, because she'll just blend into the race perfectly out there and be coming down the middle and hopefully finds the right lane. So I think it's a huge price, $14, $15. Betfair, number 11, Estene each way, and I'll be laying Harumph and On Display. Anything to add? You're all good? Move on?
No. I think you've summed that up pretty well. Speed mat wise for Harumph, I think the Warilla Boy drawn out of barrier 4 is going to be the one that pesters it at around $76. So that'll be something you'd be hoping for, I suppose. Kept out wide and pestered by a long shot.
Correct, exactly right. Let's get to the Group 1, the South Australian Derby 2,500 metre race. I could talk about this race all day. I've been doing it for hours. I find it a fascinating race with 10 of these through the Chairman's last Saturday, Mitch, and it was an absolute diabolical tempo there. They went 12.8 lengths slower than class average in that Chairman's. Gold Rush Guru led that. Dubai Focus was up there as well. They went something like 28 lengths slower than the girls in the Oaks to the 800. Absolutely incredibly slowly run. Do you think Gold Rush Guru, Dubai Focus are the lead here? It's completely different tempo. Expected a couple of fillies in the race. How have you seen the speed map here, Mitch? Yeah,
I think if Global Eclipse got a run, that would be interesting. I think that's currently unlikely. He might be one that could go at a quicker tempo, but again, it leaves the race to Gold Rush Guru and Dubai Focus, who we know sort of anchored up last week. I'm not sure. One drawn out wide, Cavity Bay. Off that really quick Oaks last week, sort of settled midfield-ish, going at a reasonable clip as well. Whether or not Harry Coffey sort of thinks he can push up forwards and sit just in that sort of similar position, I'm not sure. And then Mark Zara on American Wolf perhaps as well takes up one of those forward positions just in behind the leaders. So the more I sort of looked at the race doing the form, I'm suspect it's going to be run at a slow tempo again because purely based on the fact that maybe your two key speed influences went slow last week. So it's going to be interesting in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if I'm instructing a couple of these horses to give them the best chance in the race, I'm telling them to go forward. Cavity Bay is one of those drawn wide barrier. I think the best way that horse is going to slot in is to be positive early and let Gold Rush Guru cross it and find a position there. You've got horses like Statuario. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Do you want to pronounce it?
Statuario.
Yes, thank you. Closer from an inside barrier. You've got Politely Done, similar, but doesn't have that gate speed. American Wolf is the one that I would press forward on, coming off a 2,800 metre race. I don't think he's got the turn of foot to really charge over them in a slowly run race. So you don't. If I'm instructing them, I don't want to be dictated to and get back in a field and not have that turn of foot off a slowly run race. So I'd want to put that horse into the race off that 2,800 metre race, and he led it over 2,000 in the past. So the speed map looks fascinating here, Trent. What do you make of the race?
Yeah, just the other one I will touch on as well. The Kiwi visitor Rocktave has a bit of early speed. They've been slowly run races in New Zealand the last couple, but he's been right there. So he's one that'll go forward as well, I think. And I take your point as well. I think American Wolf has to go forward with Zara on board. It was a strongly run St. Ledger last week. If they have any chance of winning, they need to make it a true test. And you've got probably the best jockey on board knowing that. So, yeah, I think they actually might run at a bit of a tempo. And like you said, it's so easy to compare the Chairmans and the Oaks being run on the same card, same trip. So overall time, I think you touched on the early speed. I think overall time, it's about 15 lengths overall difference that on our kind of, time figures.
And is it, Trent, just on that, is it a better lead up? Obviously a faster run, you got to back up. What lead up would you rather take? A slowly run 2,000 metre race up to 25 back up, or a faster run, maybe brutally run race?
I know a lot of people that I respect would say the slower tempo race is better to back up out of. I think it just comes down to horse versus horse. I think going up in trip is probably one that, if it was a 2,000 to 2,000 and it was a strongly run race, maybe that's a little bit more of a not. Going up in trip, I'd say that balances that out a little bit more.
Yep.
And that's why I've gone the way of the Oaks form. And I was with her last week in the Oaks at $41. That's Feminile. I thought she ran pretty well. She kind of got held up behind them and then had to go. She went right back to the inside, like the closest runner to the fence. And you could see she was actually coming into it quite well, I thought, and then just got back to that inside and clearly just seemed to struggle. I think the ground was worse there. And I think the interesting thing, listening to, I think it was Tom Stockdale that got off, said instantly post-race, really good run, should be better next week for the 20, or better for the 2,500 next week, or whatever he's saying. And I thought they were talking about maybe that SA Phillies Classic race. I didn't know that she was going to be backing up. So I think this has always been her target, getting to 2,500 meters on the back up here. So yeah, I thought that coming through that strongly run race sets her up really well here. There's not much difference in the actual pound for pound ratings between the Chairmans and the Oaks. And I think she's one that will really relish that 2,500 meters on the back up. So yeah, she's a huge price again here, and she's the way I'm going to be playing the race.
Love that. Number 15, Feminile. Mitch, just Statuario, obviously a horse with upside, building a really good career record, won well at the 2,400 metres, so ticks that box. He met Gold Rush Guru, Mitch, in Australian Guineas. Gold Rush ran third there, and Statuario ran 14th at $61. Now you're taking half the price, if not more, Statuario 2 runs later. It's a bizarre setup, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that those 1,600 metres versus the 25 a big difference. Yes, and since then, Gold Rush Guru going up to Sydney. So I suppose on one of my plays in this race, I'm laying Gold Rush Guru to play. So I found excuses for him last week in the Chairman's coming home. He over-raced up in Sydney. I don't think he loved it. Went and watched the Chairman's again last night. And he's really pulling himself, like his head right up. He's really over racing, and I just don't think he's at his best. They're here now. They're going to have a ping at the stumps. He was the VRC Derby winner, so why wouldn't you? But I just don't think he's going that well, and he's a big risk of over racing again. And if he over races again, I don't think you'll see out a strong 2,500 metres, even though he's certainly capable of drawn outside as well. I think if there's a sniff of a slow tempo, he's going to be over racing and wide again. So I'm against him to place. I just think maybe a little bit's been taken out of him so far this prep with that Sydney preparation, and the fact that he came back to his home state and still over raced quite viciously. I thought was a risk for him. So I was sort of against the chairman's. I was looking outside of that. I really thought there was a good opportunity for an Oaks filly to win this race. The one for me was Polynema. I thought that was going to be a huge charge, but they didn't come here in the end. I've had a little early bet in the week on Cavity Bay at 50s. I thought there was a few little excuses there, and Harry Coffey, I thought, sort of, you have a look at him in his jockey comments. I think he thought there was a little bit more to give, which they didn't get out of her. So I don't mind Trent's push on Feminine because I'm sort of looking in the same direction, but at a different horse. But then I'm also probably going to have a main play on Statutorio. I thought drawn to the inside here, tick that box, 2,400 metres. He's up to 25. Did it quite softly as well. I know they ran that at a slow tempo too, but given his race map here, I think if he gets a soft run, he's got enough turn of foot to find a good position and be quite strong late if he needs to be. A little turn, tick over trial there at Caulfield as well, I think will have done him a world of good. So I've lent his way a differing form line. And then, sort of value plays there at the Oaks. I'm just sort of against the chairmans in this. Lavalier is probably the only one I'd take out of the chairmans. I thought was finishing okay, but just flattened out enough at the end of the 2,000 there for me to suggest that 2,500 metres is a different ball game a week later.
Yeah, Snoopy Now made really good ground in the fastest late sectionals.
Yeah.
Just concerned with Snoopy Now off a slow tempo. Last couple, got to turn a foot, but if they do run it, truly, the way they run this race is going to be really fascinating. So if they do go hard and a horse like, American Wolf makes it a staying test, I'll put a pen through a few of them through the chairman. So really interesting race. I'm not that keen to play, but Gold Rush Guru is a fascinating horse because his best is good enough, but he's just not doing things right, and he comes off a slow tempo, so he might improve off a faster tempo up to 25, but really hard race. Let's get to the sprint final series, 1,200 metres, the last race, benchmark 76. Trent, you and I align with one here, and you and Mitch align with the other one. So Tommy 2 play for a couple of us. Trent, you kick things away.
Yeah, well, they've all kind of come through, because it's a series final, they've all kind of come through similar sorts of lead-ups. Last start, the one won by Xanthron, but I thought the splits of number 13, Eroica, were really good there. Got a long way back and charge home. Did start $3.50 that occasion. Now draws to settle closer. She has been able to take up a position in the past, so barrier 2, Rochelle Milnes as well, sticking with her. We love Rochelle Milnes. She's a very good jockey, and you get the 1.5 kilo claim for her in this race. So I think she's almost the horse to beat in this, and she's got a bit of upside compared to the rest of these as well. She's only had the 7 starts. So really like those splits last start. I think with a more evenly run race, and you probably will get that, this being a rich series final, I think she's the one to beat. And the other one I've just had a little bit of a spec on, or we'll have a little bit of a spec on through the same race, is number 12, Wakanjija. I might be absolutely butchering that pronunciation, but number 12 for Philip Stokes. Didn't have a lot of luck in that race first up either. Needs to get back to her best, but her best kind of a couple of preps or so ago, she was running some big races in Adelaide and then came over to Melbourne and was short in the market a couple of times. Didn't quite go on with it, but yeah, I thought she did enough first up and now gets in really light after the 3 kilo claim and drawn wide. But if they are getting right off the fence again and there's a good tempo on, I don't think that's necessarily the worst spot for her. So she's going to be, she's $23 now. She'll probably start bigger than that on Betfair starting price, and she's one that you could have something on. But Heroic is probably the main chance for me.
I'm with you, Wakanjija. I'm expecting at a big price here. Second up, 12.5 lengths slower than class benchmark to the 600 there, Trent. Just wasn't the right setup for a horse like Wakanjija. Dropped 6 kilos from that. Second up, twice winner there, and the peak ratings are good enough to win. So if she gets anywhere near the best, can run a good race, and it might be a nice setup and it might be a nice barrier. So I just have something small, Wakanjija, to finish. Mitch, you're keen on Eroica as well, mate?
Yeah, I'll give a quick shout out just to my in-laws who have free beer in this race for Justin Pickering. He's ticking along nicely, but he wants a wet track, so that's a bit unfortunate for the setup that they're going to get. But good luck to them. Yeah, Eroica for me, barrier 2. Trent touched on it well. I think the way that closed off last start, it's light in the weights here, and it can settle in a good position. So I've given it a hot chance, but Hadra's the other one I just want to back as well. I don't want to lose out on Hadra. First up, they're 2 lengths behind Watch Me Win, who came out and won the Group 3 John Hawke Stakes last week in nice fashion, and then went to the Railway at Oakbank, the listed race, and finished off okay there. And quite a blanket finish. Volcanic Express ran well last weekend, and Sir Sway was second in the race, and she wasn't too far off that horse from a wide barrier. So I thought 550 and 650 for those two horses at the minute. I'm happy to stake both of them. They've got some crossing form lines, which I don't mind, and both drawn onto the inside in what a race like this could be quite messy. These series finals with some horses that just got to chance their arm can make it a little bit difficult sometimes. So hopefully they get soft runs.
The way to finish there with a Tommy 2-play, number 11 and number 13, and Trent is on Aroaka and Wakanjaja as well. Time for the Hamburger. I think Liam got his Hamburger up last year with Benadryl and laid moving out. Nicely done, King Clancy. I'll kick things away. I'm pretty bullish. Estene each way, win and place, and laying on display. I'll probably lay her up for Humph as well, pending price there. But that's my Hamburger. Trent?
Yeah, I found it really hard to find one this week, actually. There was a couple that wanted to back, but they're big odds, or there wasn't something I really wanted to lay. So I've gone a little bit wider back to Eagle Farm to race 9, where it's a little bit more cut and dry. I'm going to be backing number 2, Snack Bar. Had a bit of early support, but it's still second pick in the market. Laying number 1, Emirate. There's probably not a whole lot between them. Emirate's coming back, I think, off a bit of an injury, off 217 days. Promising, but was a promising juvenile for Chris Waller, but I don't think there's much between them. Snack Bar's got some good form around Autumn Glow, Lady Shenandoah as well, and gets a bit of a weight swing off him. Had the run under the belt where he hit the line strongly at the midweek's Warwick Farm. Now second up, 1,300 metres, drawn perfectly, sets up in the first 4 or 5 there, whereas Emirates drawn wide first up for Waller is going to be back near last, giving Snack Bar a head start and fitness and weight. I think Emirate may be the better horse, but I don't like the setup for him. I think Snack Bar is going to be the one that continues to firm, and I think it'll start favourite.
Backing Snack Bar, laying Emirate. Mitch, I think we know yours.
Yeah, just go back over it. Laying Sir Kingsford and backing Silent Sorrente in the Port Adelaide Cup. Came close to playing in the Derby there, laying Gold Rush Guru, but happy on just a 2,500 metre goals for either of those races. But Silent Sorrente gets the job done. Sir Kingsford, unfortunately.
Move on to your best bets.
One in there earlier in the program at Adelaide, race 3, number 3, Savagery Vibe for Nick Ryan. A really good win there first up, 1,000 metres at Pakenham. Comes across here to a BM64, facing a few local horses that I'm not sure exactly where they are and where they stack up on this horse. So I think it's quite progressive. So I think second up here now, Furnished, Mark Zara on, who Trent touched on earlier, was riding the track really well last weekend, I should say, sorry. So I think Savage Vibe sets up really nicely here. He'll go forwards and Mark Zara gets to take control of the race, which we love.
There you go, Trent.
Yeah, Feminile each way in the Derby, I think, is a really good play. I think she was unsuited in the Oaks and is going to really relish 2,500 metres on the backup. The one I'd make the actual best, though, is at Caulfield. And I was just waiting to see. It's come out of the Warrnambool Cup today. That's race 6, number 3, Immediacy. I just want to wait to back it. I think we'll take Betfair late because there's a couple of other horses that are still in the Warrnambool Cup. So there's going to be deductions and it's going to be messy. And I just want to wait for that market percentage to come down. But really like that win. Second up at Mornington. Love him staying 2,000 metres. Barrier 4, Blake Shin. Just ticks so many boxes. He's got more upside. I think once these scratchings come out and the market percentage gets down and if you're still getting better than $2, I think he'll be winning. So Immediacy, the best of the day at Caulfield for me.
Love that, mate. That's all we got time for. Next week, Trent, you got to get the memo on the uniform, please. Black vest, grey jumper. We'll send you a vest in the mail. Thanks for joining us. This has been Layback with Betfair. Hello, Betfair punters. We're excited to introduce a new feature on the Betfair app, Follow Tipsters. This feature will allow you to follow your favourite Betfair experts and receive notifications when their betting strategies go live. By clicking follow and enabling notifications, you'll never miss a tip from pros like Terry Layton, Mitch Lewis, Jackson Oldham and Bella Anderson. All exclusive in the Betfair app, so download and get started.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.